Hello, everyone. Now we are starting with our third session. Are we here now?
Yes, we are. I think we all are here.
Sure.
Yeah,
Thank you so
hello.
much. So I think we all are tired of all the typos and errors, and we are reluctant to see a lot of changes in our content. So no worries. Our all my fellow writers, our next speaker got ourselves covered. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Our consultant is senior, an immensely talented editor, a mentor, Jyoti Sethi Khullar, a freelance editor with an experience of more than 16 years. She'll walk us through the best practice to imbibe the way to review our own content, along with how to move forward with the peers review processes and other editorial process. Over to you, Jyoti-san. You're on mute, Jyoti-san.
Yeah. Thank you, Priyanka. And thank you, Team Tech Writers Tribe, for taking this initiative and, helping this tribe grow so much and helping the writers community to improvise every day, every weekend you're having sessions. That's really a great initiative. Thanks to all of you for your efforts. So, and thanks to the presenters for the rest of the presentations. I was going through them and they were really insightful. So while we are talking about so many advanced things, AI, ML, object-oriented design and documentation, I would like to take you back to the basics, okay? And we'll slow down a little bit and we'll talk about editing. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, it is.
Right? Yeah. So if we talk about editing is, I think every one of us is doing that, right? So I would like that we keep, there is a request that, to all the participants that they keep their hands on keyboard so that we can keep it interactive, okay? And I'll put down the questions and I would expect that we get few quick answers to them, okay? So let's see. What do you think? I mean, just go back into the past and think, when did you start editing? At what age? At what point of your career you started editing your content? Can you just, some of you just type in your answers very quickly? Okay. No one? No one edits their content? Oh my God. Really? Thank you, Sonal. You were 19, writing essays in school days, school. At 25, since I started writing. Yes. So in school, yes, absolutely. So editing is that basic. My son, he has just started editing. That means he's just 7 and has started writing. And I asked him, okay, did you, review your whatever you've written? Did you revise your test or not? So we edit at that stage, basically. So some of you did get that. So we do not start editing when we start our writing career or something. We start editing when we start writing literally and we go back to our tests and school days where we, go back and revise our tests and, edit our mistakes to make our content better, right? So let us start with the basic things. Although I will use this particular thing as editing only, the term is editing, but we are referring to editing in the technical documentation, so technical editing. And this is what all we are going to cover here. So what is editing? Although everybody is aware of that, we'll just talk it out in technical terms. And then what all needs editing? Why do we need it? Who does the editing? Who is the editor specifically? And how to edit, like what are the stages? How should we go about it? Then there is an important aspect to it, like when you edit, you have to sometimes give feedback also to the writers and how to comment. And we'll also go through a quick editing checklist that can come handy when you edit your content or someone else's content for that matter. Yeah. So quickly going through it. So what is editing? If we talk of editing in technical writing. So technical writing, technical editing is a collaborative process which involves writers, subject matter experts, and editors. And the objective is to deliver good quality content that informs users and helps them solve their problem with minimal effort. So any writing that we do in technical, domain has some motive, related to some issue that user is facing. He might not be aware about a feature. He might not be, he might be, what do you say, struggling with one of the issues that he wants to solve. So we want to provide the content, best content to him so that he can solve his issues in the minimal time. And technically speaking, editing is to review content written on any technical topic from information, structure, language, and style perspective. However, the end goal of editing is just same as that of writing, to present a correct, clear, concise, consistent, and compelling information. So, although writer does his best to do that, editor gives him a new perspective to make it better. What all needs editing? So, in this world of content and content everywhere, all sorts of content we are seeing. We are seeing content in the written form, in the form of videos, in the form of images, in the form of blogs, and everywhere there is so much of content. So editing basically is required for all these things, including few of them which are related to technical domain. I have mentioned them: documentation, UI strings, infographics also need editing, data sheets, in-app guidance, the tooltips that we put, any kind of technical descriptions that we add. Then we have knowledge bases, blogs, emails, even the emails that we write. We do edit them before pressing that send button. So every and any kind of editing is editing, any kind of content. Why do we really need to edit? If we talk in the technical terms, like in the professional industry, why editing is so important? How does it help? What are the benefits? If we talk about them in the terms of organization, it saves a lot of money for an organization. How could editing be saving money? It requires a lot of extra effort, or maybe an extra role also. So how could it really save money? If you look at this, it saves a lot of iterations that might be required from program managers or the product managers. They'll send you the the document back that it is not up to the mark if it is not edited properly. Similarly, if an unedited content is published, it will probably cost you more, because customer will not have that confidence in your product. You will not have that feel of credibility in the product in the company, and you will probably not even buy the product. Okay, so it saves you a lot of money. It reduces support queries. It reduces a lot of burden on the editing process of editing helps you fill the gaps where you might have left some information, and it also helps reduce the burden on the support staff, so that you get lesser and lesser queries. It improves the user experience when user comes to your content and is able to solve the problem very easily. So what else do you want? It obviously will lead to better confidence in your product, right? It increases average session time today's time is all about, how long the user could stay on your page, could refer to the information, if you refer to the information that you have posted. So it increases the average session time of your blog or whatever you write in the documentation. It increases the credibility, as we discussed. It creates a professional impression that, if your documentation is properly, in proper form, if your content is in proper form, it gives an idea that, okay, this company is really concerned about the customers' issues and problems, and they are giving a good service. It's part of a good support service. So, and it also helps increase the conversion rate. That means the customer that is coming to your website, to your documentation, to your blog, it helps you convert those prospects into sales, right? So that way it helps the organization grow and make more money. Yes. So how does it help the writer? If we talk of the writer, it helps refine the ideas, whether you are editing yourself or someone else is editing for you. In both the cases, it helps the writers, bring out best in the writing and deliver a good content. So it helps you fill in the gaps where you might have missed it in one go, but when you go back and edit and implement the same procedure again, you find that, okay, I have missed this point. So you cover that up as well. Then comes the readability part. When the writer starts writing, initially we write as we think. Okay, that's the first draft that we have completed. That should not be published at all. Okay, when you go back to the content and you see like how I can improvise my writing, how can I improvise the flow of the topic, you increase the readability of the topic and give your user a better experience. Polish the writing style. You notice whatever mistakes you tend to make, you notice them when you polish it further. It increases the impact of your language, it increases the impact of your content on the customer. You eliminate language issues, how careful you might be. There will be some typos, some errors, some missing words or any kind of those sort of mistakes. So it will help you eliminate those issues. So it provides learning also. If someone else is editing for you, it will definitely give you some feedback and you get different perspective. It provides learning from the language perspective, from the information development perspective, like where you might have missed few things. The other person is giving you that perspective. Okay, this can be taken care of, and next time you are good to go with that step as well. So you grow as a professional with every step, even if you're editing yourself or someone else is editing for you. So it helps the writer grow in all the terms. Okay. When it comes to the user, how does it help the user or the reader who is going to read your content? It helps them solve their problem easily. It gives them a good experience altogether. Okay. It is always a pleasure to read good content. I am sure that in this, every now and then we read so many things, but there are a few pieces of content that really leave a mark on your mind that, okay, this was something good. There was something good about it, and it really creates an impact. So I'm sure that you are aware, everybody here is aware of the difference of a good writing and not so good writing, right? So it provides complete information. User doesn't have to go here or there and to find and fill in the gaps, or maybe even go to the support query. That's also an extra effort that user has to make. If he gets everything, he would like to self-serve the information and solve his problem on his own, and he's not interested in going to the support staff to solve his problem, right? So it helps him save the effort in that direction. It offers better reading experience and it boosts his confidence in the product. So he can rely that, okay, I have chosen this product, it is my right choice and I can go with it for a longer time. So it definitely creates a lot of difference when it comes to the reader as well, right? Now, who is the editor? Exactly. An editor is a bridge between a technical writer and the end user. Until now, you must have heard that who is the technical writer? A technical writer is also a bridge between the end user and the developers or the SMEs, the program, the stakeholders, right? There is another small bridge, which is the editor. He tries to bridge whatever gaps are left between the technical writer and the end user. Then comes, what does he do? He reviews the technical content submitted by writers, quite obvious. He checks the content for clarity, conciseness, structure, grammar, punctuation, and most importantly, correctness and understandability. Could be he could be a standalone editor. It could be a peer writer. It could be one of your seniors. It could be the writer, him or herself. So it could be anyone. Editor could be anyone. So depending on your role, you might have to edit your own content or someone else's content. So editor needs a different set of skills and knowledge depending on the domain. So it depends, a technical editor specifically, it really depends. Technical writing is done in the software as well and the automobile as well. So you cannot really define that skill set in the terms of technology, especially. So we cannot say so somebody needs to be from the BTech background or from engineering BTech, like automobile background, to be able to write in that particular domain. But yes, that is how it is. So you might need a different set of skills in different domains. What all tasks are performed by the editor? He performs editing, of course. In some cases, in some organizations, the role of editor is played by a senior technical writer or a team lead as well. So they also oversee the other technical writers, the junior technical writers. They communicate with SMEs to fetch more information. They communicate with stakeholders, product managers to understand the requirement. They propose improvement to the existing content management system. So whatever way you are handling the product right now, they help in streamlining the process. They help in contributing to the content management system. And they also create and maintain the style guide. So that's also one of the parts that are played by senior writers or the editors of the organization. Who is a good editor? What are the qualities of a good editor? So a good editor has to be research and detail oriented. Without this, you'll not be able to find out the missing points, the missing links in the content. After that, obviously, he needs to be good at language. He has to be an avid reader, very patient. It requires a lot of patience to read someone's content, and in fact, a lot more patience to read your own content. So the person has to be a good reader so that he can identify what is missing. Okay. Then there are some soft skills that are required to be a good editor. For example, first is, I think, rational thinking. Rational thinking, why is it important? This particular aspect is important to when you're especially editing it for someone else. Okay, you must have seen that when you're editing your own content, you'll not find that those many mistakes. So there are two reasons to that. I'll come to that a bit later. And when you're editing someone else's content, then you will find a lot of things, this and that. Okay, this could be done this way or this could be done that way. So at that point of time, rational thinking does come into the picture when we have to really see what is required for the content and not what is right according to you. Then comes the decision making. You have to decide what is required, what is not required, what is right and what is not so right. So the decision making is another important skill that a good editor should have. Then the good editor should be empathetic towards the writer and the writing, because the writer has already put in some effort. If especially you are doing it for someone else, the writer has already put in some effort to compile that content and present it in front of you. So there has to be that empathy and respect for the reader, for the writer, and his efforts. Constructive criticism, even if you are giving back and the feedback, the inputs, there has to be that empathy and constructive criticism. You have to bring that along. And of course, the good communication is another important skill, because a good editor has to communicate with a lot of people, the writer, maybe the senior technical leaders, the SMEs, the product managers, and all the stakeholders. Right? So good communication is also one of the skills that a good editor would require. Of course, the technical know-how of your domain, whatever domain you're working on, a little bit of bent or technical know-how will help you be a good editor. And last but not the least, most important point, a good editor is someone who polishes the content without imposing his own style and tries to bring out best in the writing and the writer. It is very natural for anybody to, think that my writing style is the right style. Okay, that's the correct way of doing things. But that's not the case always. Every writer has his or her unique style. So you have to maintain that style and still deliver a content that is correct, accurate, informative, and solves the problem of the user. So this is the most important skill that a good editor should possess. Now, what to edit when you are looking at a content? So there are multiple aspects which requires editing, and few of them are solution and information. The first aspect should be solution and information, because excuse me, because that is what the main purpose of the content is, to pass on the solution and the information to the customer or the reader. So that, and then comes the structure, how your information is flowing through the topic, through the content you have created. Then the clarity and conciseness. These 2 points are in different color. They are highlighted because these are very important aspects and require a lot of effort specifically, and requires a lot of training also. It comes with a lot of it comes with experience, because in the first draft we tend to write very wordy and verbose kind of content, which you really need to bring down later on in your editing cycles. Okay, so there are some mechanical aspects that we go through. There are style guides that we have to comply to. There are grammar checks, spell checks, formatting, SEO, and a lot more. So we'll discuss it in next slide in a lot more detail when we discuss the stages. Okay. Then comes how to edit, the stages of editing. Well, the stages of editing, if we talk of creative content or book writing, there are, I think, 5 stages. But when it comes to technical writing, we can squeeze it down to 3 types of editing. The first is developmental editing, where we mainly look at the solution part of the content. Okay, so this particular editing involves high level technical checks, like the information is correct or not. Okay, the solution provided is correct or not. It also involves SMEs and product managers and senior writers could be there to review and edit that information. So you have to get that approved sometimes. Okay, whether the understanding that I have about the topic is correct or not. So this is also done in the form of documentation plans at times, where we share our understanding and we share the topic flow, that how we are going to design or present this content. So this particular thing is checked in the stage of developmental editing, which is the very first stage. So when a piece of content comes to you, first step should be to check whether it solves the problem or not, whether it covers all the information or not, whether the flow of the information is correct or not, voice and tone. Then if you are, because this particular presentation was created for Grape City. They are my clients and they are in software industry. So basically that's why the sample code accuracy is also there. Okay. And because whatever sample codes you are providing in your software documentation, that needs to be checked at the first stage itself. Then you also check whether the image that has been used in the content is suitable or not for the content, and if there are any changes should be done in the initial stage. Then come the any kind of other loopholes or gaps that we find in the initial. So we should not go to for the detail level at the first stage of editing. Then comes the second stage of editing. Now the writer has covered all the information, has given all the solution that is expected. SMEs have approved this content. Now detailed check needs to be done. We come to the next level, that is the stage 2, which is copy editing. Okay, this requires the grammar check. Here you also need to check the structure of your sentences. You have to make your content more clear and concise, whether the information is going in a right manner or not, whether your content is light enough to be absorbed by the reader. Then you also check the style guide compliance. There are a lot of rules that are mentioned in the style guide, and every organization who has a bunch of writers does have this style guide, or otherwise they adopt some other guides. For example, there is Google Developer Guide, and then there is Microsoft Style Guide and other style guides that are prevalent. So some style guide has to be there in the background, so that the writer can go back and refer to what rules should be applied and bring consistency in the content in those terms, right? Then comes the parallelism. Whenever you're writing your content, especially when you're writing the pointers or you're creating a table, you have to create the parallel content. I hope everybody is clear about that. Otherwise, you can just ask your question in the chat box if anybody is not clear about this one. And then you have to also make word choices. Sometimes when we write, we use flowery, although it's not there in that much in technical writing. But yes, we tend to use some flowery or some difficult words. Instead of them, we should go for a simpler words if available. So word choice is something that can be done at this level. Then your image is ready. It has been edited in the stage 1. But how it should be labeled, what kind of inputs your screenshots should have, all those checks also required to be done. And the last but not the least is in this stage, you should also check what formatting, what kind of HTML you have given, whether it is style-wise, it is appropriate or not. Then we come to this last stage, stage 3. Stage 3 is kind of a minute level detailed check, which is proofreading. Content is ready and it is ready for the publishing and production. You are just about to go ahead and click that publish button. Before that, you have to check all these things like spell check, punctuations, capitalization, link checks has to be done, typos, format, and anything else that might have missed or you've got comments for in the previous cycle, in the previous stage. Okay, so that's what the proofreading is all about. And after this, your output should be a no error output, because obviously you're going to publish it, and it requires a lot of effort to bring it to that level. So be very careful at this stage. Okay. Now I have few exercises for you people. May I request you to please go through and then again come back to your chat box where you feel that this particular piece of content requires editing. Although we discussed 3 stages: developmental, copy editing, and proofreading. It is difficult to cover developmental editing because it requires a lot of that perspective, the solution, and the information point of view. So we'll not cover that. also will not go by proofreading, because proofreading also is a very detailed and minor checks that are required, and we have a lot of tools also in many cases. So we'll focus on copy editing in this particular exercise. So please take a few minutes and go through this content and type into the chat box where you feel that the content should be edited. I'm taking a pause so that you can read peacefully. Okay. I will, yes, I will discuss the parallelism in a bit. Let's just see what all inputs are we getting about the content. Okay. Just a few more seconds left and we'll go to, yes, please type in your responses quickly. Absolutely. So we do have few inputs out there, like, the second sentence, which is with a rich object model is not complete. And that's why Ranjit is also pointing it out. And Pooja has also raised the correct point that we are using enable in second paragraph twice, which should not be there, because we should bring in little bit of variation also in the terms that we are using to give it a better flow. So let's come to the next slide where I have edited it for you, and I will try to explain like where all this particular piece of content is lacking. So the very first point is, if you see the first paragraph, last sentence, we are talking about reporting. Reporting is significant to business decision making and knowledge management. Now, while in the starting, we have already talked about a control. This all this is from Grape City case study. So all these controls and other references are also from the same thing. So please excuse me if I'm not catering to other industries. Mm. So here, first, I would say that in technical writing, the preference is you start from a generic concept and then you go to the more specific cases. So in this case, if we are talking about reporting, so first we'll talk about the concept and then we talk about the core concept that we are, the main in the terms of product and everything. So reporting should be first defined, or where its use case should be discussed. So reporting is significant in a wide arena of business scenarios, be it data analysis, decision making, or knowledge management. So from that perspective, we have shifted it upwards so that the generic information comes first and then the specific information. Next, coming to the next line, Flex report is a comprehensive. I've kept that same. The second line, which is not a complete sentence in itself, with a rich object model, a modern user interface, in its previewing control and designer application, it's an incomplete sentence. So you have to complete it. So I have completed it like this. The control offers a rich object model and modern user interface in its previewing control and designer application. Now coming to the second paragraph, Component 1 Studio Web API Edition enables the users to create report services that can be used to build HTTPS services. So here I have changed the sentence a little bit so that that enable thing doesn't repeat itself, and that goes off here. So I have also broken the sentence down so that it is much more simpler to understand and absorb. So basically it is that in a single sentence you should serve a single purpose. Okay, so that's how you go about it. Then we to come down to the last um, note, where we have mentioned to work with, in the original content, it's to work with flex report control, the minimal server configuration. First of all, this minimal term is not correct. It should be minimum server configuration is this, and there are better ways to write it. So according to the scenario, one can improvise this note as well. Okay, we go to the exercise 2. It's a shorter one. I will also explain parallelism here, which Aviral has asked about. So you can probably give it a quick read and give me your answers. Is my screen still visible?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so any inputs? Any inputs about the content? It doesn't require any editing, I suppose. Okay, let's see what it requires. So if we talk of this particular paragraph, it talks about C1 calendar supports customizing the display of each date cells on the client. This particular sentence is not very clear in mentioning the intent, because it wants to say that you can display the custom date cell on the client. So it can be really written in a very small sentence. Instead of supports, customizing, display, there are a lot of verbs in this particular sentence. You can always reduce it. So one way of making your content concise and clear is to reduce the number of verbs that are being used in the sentence. So that's what also this particular sentence teaches. The C1 calendar can display customized date cell on the client. So it's as simple as that. You can create custom date cell by implementing client-side callback function specified by this particular property. So here, again, a lot of verbs. Customization is achieved by implementing. A lot of verbs are there. And then I have tried to reduce that by using, you can create custom date cell by implementing. Coming down to client side. Client side is generally used as a single term. Okay. And callback with hyphen, client hyphen site. And callback is again also a single term, which is used separately. Callback function is a technical term that is used. So I have.
Excuse me, Jyoti.
Yes. Yes.
It's just a time check. Yeah, we just have like 5 minutes before we take the Q&A session.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you.
I think my questions will be covered in here, only most of them. The rest I will keep some time for sure. Okay. Next comes the list. If we check this list, here we can talk about parallelism as well. If you look at the original content, the first particular pointer starts from jQuery object that represents. Another one starts from date of the cell, type of the day, and the last one start from whether mouse is over. So parallelism is mainly about consistency when we come to the pointers. So if you're starting your content, your list, or your pointers from verb, then you should start all of them with verb only. And if you're starting it with noun, then you should start with noun only. Okay. And then comes, if you look at the argument names, the person has started argument names with lowercase initially, and hover and preview are in the uppercase. Again, this is a part of parallelism also, and technically also it is not correct, because argument names, if you're using in JavaScript or something, so they are used in camel casing, and they start with lowercase. So that is how it is. It should be mentioned. So that is also part of editing. Now, last point, to create a custom date, implement the client-side callback function specified by the on-client customized date property like the following. So you can, again, make it more clear. I will just skip to the next slide quickly so that we can cover the whole content. I'm really slow. I'm sorry. So how to edit self-written content? Okay, this is the most critical part. I think a lot of us face a lot of issue when editing our own content, because so I will share some tips and tricks to how to edit self-written content. So there are a few ways you can get better at your own writing. First is take a break and disconnect with your content. When you write and edit in continuation, you'll not be able to look at the content with a fresh view. You'll not be able to look at the content with rational thinking. So it is better that you take a break. If time allows, come back to that piece of content next day, or maybe after a few hours at least, so that you can look at it, in a better way. Then get into the user shoes yet again. If you have written your own content, you have already kept all those things in mind that user needs to know. But you have to yet again get into those shoes and probably implement those steps. If you're writing procedures or you're implementing something, just implement that particular thing again, so that you know that there is no gap in your writing. Read it out loud, in loud and clear voice. Well, if not in office, at least at home, because many of us are now working from home. We can do this particular step. You can read it out loud and in clear voice. So how does it help? It helps in, when we read silently, we skim read. We do not read the whole content. But when we read it out loud, you have to read it word by word. So it helps in identifying a lot of mistakes that you might have missed otherwise. Take your content to a different document with a different font and size. Again, when you write in a particular place, you are used to see it in that way, and our brain says that, okay, I have done it correctly. Okay, so you skim read it. But when you take it to a different document, it gives you a feel, and you change the font and size, it gives you a feel that it is a fresh content altogether, and you'll, coincidentally, you'll happen to read it more properly. So you'll be able to identify the gaps. Then refer to the company's style guide. There are a lot of things that we tend to do as a part of our writing style, but that not might be, in compliance with company's style guide. So do refer to that and improve your writing. Take a help from a peer for initial few topics and identify which are the areas that you need to work upon. And make a checklist for yourself that, okay, these are the areas that I need to work on my writings myself, and do check them when you deliver, before you deliver your content to the next level. There are a lot of tools also available there. So some of them are built-in tools, whatever documentation tools you are using. It could be simple MS Word, or it could be, Robo Helper, everything. So they do provide a lot of tools like spell checker, link checker, and sometimes grammar checker as well. So you can utilize, leverage those tools to identify a few mistakes, but do not completely depend on them. Even if they are AI-based tools, which are much prevalent these days. Grammarly is the most common one. There are free versions available for all of these tools: Hemingway Editor, Pro Writing Aid, and there are many more, which will help you, improvise the structure, which will help you identify the grammatical mistakes. So you can leverage these technologies, but yes, a self-reading is also a must along with them. How to edit content from another technical writer. So another technical writer could be a peer, could be a junior of yours, or could be anyone. So how to get that, edit that content, get involved in the writing process from the beginning. If possible, start from the beginning. If not, when you receive the content, implement the process or whatever thing is written to identify the gaps. Understand the user. Who are you writing for? So that will give you a perspective that what user is looking for. Then comes communicate with SMEs to identify what is their requirement, what is their purpose of that particular content, so that you can pass it on to the user. Then be compassionate and empathetic, as we discussed earlier, because you need to give the feedback. You need to respect the writer's effort. And yes, edit the writing, not the writer. See what information is required, how it should be conveyed in the best possible manner. But yes, you have to be respectful towards the writer, that okay, how to give comments and how to give feedback. So it is a bit trickier. uh, Now we sometimes do get some contents from SMEs as well, which are very highly technical documents. Might be there, it could be product architecture or few other documents which are required to be placed in more or less similar shape. So when it comes from SME, we really look up to them, and we see that okay, these guys are technical, and we give stop thinking about the user. But as an SME, they write a lot of complex things which we need to break down and convert them into digestible pieces so that user can understand them. Okay, you have to again edit the flow, the structure, grammar, terminology, which SME might not have taken care of because it is not his job, but it's your job to deliver it to the user. So look at them, apply the style guide, check the consistency of terms, check final formatting. So before publishing, that anyways we are going to do. Where do we edit? We are editing in the tools that we are using. That could be anything. It could be Word document where we add the comments or we do the track changes things. It could be Google Docs, depending on whatever your organizations are using. Similarly, you can add, create a list of comments in Excel or something, and you have Jira, Confluence, many case, tools where editing is being done these days. I'll just skip short that one. And, and to come to this one, which is like how to comment. There are multiple ways of commenting, and when you start writing and editing in the start, it is very difficult to communicate your point of view to the writer, and in a way that convinces him to, mm, accept your comment gracefully and incorporate it in your writing. So that is one important point. So there are multiple ways of doing it. You can give your opinion. You can give it as a suggestion. You can command something depending on your post and depending on the change that is required. And there could be a possibility also. Sometimes we also tend to pose questions. Could you use this or that? So there are some certain suggestions regarding how should we actually go ahead and comment. So you can either go with opinion, go with suggestion. If a change is must have, then a command is also okay. and possibility statement, where you again are saying if something is possible to be done or not. But do not use passive sentences again here. Like we say in writing, similar way goes to the comment as well, because it comes down to the writer in a different manner if you go in the passive. Again, you should not ask the question until it is a genuine question. Okay. Otherwise, it will put you and the writer in the loop, and it is better to give opinion or to give command or suggestion. Okay. And there are few additional tips. If you are giving feedback to the writer, start your feedback with good points, because everybody is good at something. Maybe he must have compiled some information in a nice way, or he must have been, taken a nice snapshot or something else. So there is definitely a good point about the writing that the writer has delivered. So start with a positive note, so that it creates a relation with the writer, and it helps him also absorb the comments that you're going to give later on. And when you are commenting, add it with a payoff convey that can pay off, so that it conveys your perspective and makes the comment more clear, and convinces the writer easily to make the change. And here is the quick editing checklist that you can use in different stages of the editing: developmental editing, copy editing, and proofreading. So very quick check. And also, there are areas which we have already discussed, and a few more, that something like copyright and confidential information should also be taken care of by before publishing. So that those are the additional points that are covered in this checklist. And now we thank you so much for listening me out, and excuse me if I have taken a bit of more time, but yes, you can shoot your questions now and get ready for the next level. Yeah.
Thank you, Jyoti. I think all the questions can be answered by you in the chat itself, because it's time to move in the next session now, if that's possible.
Yeah, sure. No problem.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a wonderful presentation, and it just took to the basics and we walked through them. So glad, Jyoti, that you shared this PPT